With the plan confirmed, Zhou Mingrui suddenly gained a sense of determination, and all his fear, hesitation, and unease were relegated to the corner. Only at this moment did he have the mood to carefully examine the fragments of memories left by Klein. Zhou Mingrui instinctively stood up, closed the valve of the pipeline, and watched as the wall lamp gradually dimmed until it went out. He then sat back down, unconsciously caressing the brass cylinder of his revolver, while pressing his head to the side. In the dark, tinged with a crimson hue, he quietly reminisced, like the most focused audience in a cinema. Perhaps due to the impact of the bullet passing through, Klein's memories were shattered like broken glass. Not only did they lose coherence, but many parts also clearly lacked content. For example, where the exquisitely crafted revolver came from, whether it was a suicide or a homicide, and what exactly the phrase "everyone will die, including me" in the notebook meant. Was there any involvement in strange events in the 2 days before the incident? Not only did specific memories become fragmented and incomplete, but even the knowledge he possessed was the same. Based on the current state, Zhou Mingrui believed that if Klein were to return to university now, he would probably not be able to graduate, even though he had only been away from campus for a few days and had not let his guard down in the slightest. 2 days later, I have an interview with the history department at Tingjing University. In the Kingdom of Lune, it is a tradition for graduates not to stay directly at the university. My mentor gave me recommendation letters for Tingjing University and Beekland University. In the silent viewing, the red moon slowly sank to the west outside the window, until a faint light began to appear in the east, casting a golden hue on the horizon. At this moment, there was movement coming from inside the room, and soon, footsteps approached the isolation door. Melissa is awake. She's as punctual as ever. Zhou Mingrui smiled slightly, feeling a sense of familiarity towards Melissa due to Klein's memories. However, I don't actually have a younger sister, he immediately commented, sarcastically. Melissa is different from Benson and Klein. Her primary education was not completed at the Sunday school of the Church of the Dark Knight. By the time she reached the age of schooling, the Kingdom of Lune had enacted the Elementary Education Act and established the Lower and Middle Education Committee, specifically providing funding and increasing investment. However, within 3 years and under the condition of incorporating many church schools, numerous public primary schools were established, strictly maintaining the principle of religious neutrality and avoiding involvement in the conflicts between the Church of the Storm Lord, the Church of the Dark Knight, and the Church of Steam and Machinery. Compared to the Sunday school, where only 1 copper penny is charged for the entire week, the tuition fee of 3 pennies per week for public primary schools may seem relatively expensive. However, it's important to consider that the former only has classes on Sundays, while the latter provides education for a full 6 days a week. Taking this into account, the cost is significantly low, almost approaching free. Melissa is different from most girls as she has had a fascination with gears, cogs, and bearings from a young age. She aspires to become a steam mechanic. Having experienced a cultural disadvantage himself, Benson, the elder brother who understands the importance of education, supports his sister's dream, just as he supported Klein's decision to attend university. After all, the Tingjin Technical School provides only a secondary education, and there is no need for further accumulation at a grammar school or public school. In July of last year, Melissa, at the age of 15, fulfilled her wish by passing the entrance exam and becoming a member of the Steam and Mechanical Engineering Department at Tingjin Technical School. The weekly tuition fee has also increased to 9 pennies. Meanwhile, Benson's employer, an import-export company, has been heavily impacted by the situation in the southern continent. Both profits and business volume have significantly declined, leading to a workforce reduction of over 1/3. In order to secure his job and maintain his livelihood, Benson has had to take on more demanding tasks, often requiring overtime or travel to harsh environments, just like he has been doing in recent days. Klein did consider helping his brother financially, but as someone from a commoner background who entered a regular grammar school, he immediately felt his own inadequacy upon entering university. For example, the ancient Gufasak language, which serves as the primary language of all nations in the northern continent, is something that noble children and those from affluent classes have been learning since childhood. However, Klein only encountered it for the first time in university. There are many other similar aspects as well. Klein exhausted almost all of his strength, often staying up late and waking up early, just to barely catch up with others and graduate with average grades. Memories of his older brother and younger sister flashed through Zhou Mingrui's mind, until he turned the doorknob and the door of the room creaked open, abruptly snapping him back to reality. He remembered that he was holding a semi-regulated item in his hand, a revolver. This could frighten children. And there was also the wound on my head. Seeing that Melissa was about to come out, Zhou Mingrui pressed his temples and hastily pulled open the drawer of the desk, throwing the revolver inside with a loud thud. What happened? Melissa heard the noise and looked over with curiosity. She was in the prime of her youth, with a slight thinness in her face even if she couldn't afford to eat well. Her complexion was pale, but her skin still had a youthful glow, emanating a girl's aura. As he saw his sister's inquisitive gaze with her brown eyes, Zhou Mingrui forced himself to remain calm. He picked up the item closest to him and casually closed the drawer, concealing the presence of the revolver. Meanwhile, the sensation at his temple reassured him that the wound had already healed. What he took out from the drawer was a silver-white pocket watch with intricate vine and leaf patterns. With a gentle press at the top, the cover of the watch popped open. It was the most valuable item left behind by their father, a former Royal Army sergeant. However, being a second-hand item, it had its fair share of issues in recent years. Even after being repaired by a watchmaker, it would occasionally malfunction. This caused Benson, who liked to wear it to elevate his status, to embarrass himself on multiple occasions. Eventually, he gave up and left it lying around at home. It must be said that Melissa might have a natural talent for mechanics. After acquiring the theoretical knowledge, she began tinkering with the pocket watch using the tools at the technical school. Recently, she even claimed to have repaired it. As Zhou Mingrui watched the cover of the pocket watch pop open and saw the second hand stop moving, he instinctively turned the top, intending to wind it up. However, after twisting it several times, there was still no sound of the mainspring tightening, and the second hand remained motionless. It seems to be broken again, he said, looking at his sister with a lack of words to say. Melissa glanced at him expressionlessly, quickly approached, and took the pocket watch away from him. She stood in place and pulled up the button on the top of the pocket watch. With just a few turns, the ticking sound of the second hand started to resound. Normally, pulling up the button should be for adjusting the time. Zhou Mingrui's expression immediately became blank. Just at that moment, the distant chimes of the cathedral rang out, 6 consecutive times, distant yet ethereal. After listening intently, Melissa raised the button on the top of the pocket watch a little higher, and then turned it continuously to set the time correctly. Done, she said briefly, without any emotion, and then pressed the top back, handing the pocket watch back to Zhou Mingrui. Zhou Mingrui responded with an awkward yet polite smile. Melissa glanced at her brother once again, then turned around and walked towards the cabinet, grabbing her toothbrush, towel, and other items. She opened the door and headed to the communal bathroom. The expression she had just now seemed to have a mixture of disgust and helplessness. The look of caring for her intellectually disabled brother? Zhou Mingrui shook his head and chuckled softly as he closed the watch cover with a snap and then opened it with another snap. Repeating this action, his mind wandered and he thought of a question. Without a silencer, when Klein committed suicide, well, let's temporarily call it suicide, the commotion he made was definitely not small. Surprisingly, Melissa, who was just a wall away, didn't notice at all. Was she sleeping too deeply, or was Klein's suicide itself filled with strangeness? Snap, open, snap, close. Melissa returned from washing up only to see her brother unconsciously repeating the action of opening and closing the watch cover. Her gaze once again mixed with helplessness as she sweetly said, "Klein, bring out the remaining bread. I bought new ones today, along with meat and peas. You have your interview coming up soon, and I'll make lamb stew with peas for you." As she spoke, she moved the stove out from the corner, used the remaining charcoal to start a fire, and boiled a kettle of hot water. Before the water boiled, she opened the bottom drawer of the cupboard and delicately took out a can of inferior tea leaves. She sprinkled around 10 pieces into the kettle, pretending that it was genuine tea. They each poured 2 large cups, and Melissa and Zhou Mingrui enjoyed the tea while sharing 2 slices of rye bread. There were no wood chips mixed in, and not too much bran, yet it still didn't taste good. Zhou Mingrui's body was weak now, his stomach hungry. He relied on the tea to sustain himself, forcefully swallowing the bread while silently criticizing its taste. After a few minutes, Melissa finished eating. She tidied her black hair that hung down her vest and looked at Zhou Mingrui, saying, "Remember to buy fresh bread, just 8 pounds. In hot weather, too much can spoil. Also, remember the lamb and peas." Indeed, she is the caring sister who looks out for her bookish brother. She emphasized it once again. Zhou Mingrui smiled and nodded, saying, "Okay." Regarding the pound in the Kingdom of Ruin, based on Klein's meat measurement memory and his own comparison, Zhou Mingrui believed it to be close to his accustomed weight of 1 jin, which is approximately 0.5 kilograms. Melissa didn't say anything more. She got up and tidied up a bit, packing the last piece of bread for lunch. She put on the worn-out bonnet left by her mother and grabbed the book and stationery bag she had sewn herself. She was ready to go out. Today wasn't Sunday, she had a full day of classes ahead of her. It takes about 50 minutes to walk from this apartment to the Tianjin Technical School. There are public horse carriages available, charging 1 penny per kilometer within the city limits and a maximum fare of 4 pennies. For journeys outside the city, it costs 6 pennies. However, Melissa chooses to save money by leaving early and walking there herself. Just as she opened the door, she paused and turned halfway, saying, "Klein, don't buy too much lamb and peas. Benson might not be back until Sunday. Oh, and remember, we only need 8 pounds of bread." "All right, understood," Zhou Mingrui replied reluctantly. Meanwhile, he silently repeated the word Sunday in his mind several times. In the northern continent, a year is also divided into 12 months, with the number of days ranging from 365 to 366. Similarly, a week consists of 7 days. The former is derived from astronomy, which made Zhou Mingrui suspect that this place is a parallel world. The latter, however, is derived from religion, as in the orthodox deities of the northern continent, there are 7, the eternal sun, the lord of storms, the god of knowledge and wisdom, the goddess of the night, the mother goddess of the earth, the god of war, and the god of steam and machinery. Watching his sister close the door and leave, Zhou Mingrui suddenly sighed and quickly shifted his focus to the ritual of transportation. "I'm sorry, I really want to go home."